Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Chapter 1 Read Aloud. This month we are going to be celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month, and I will be reading you Chapter 1s from books by Hispanic authors about the Hispanic experience. So our first book that we are going to be reading today is going to be the book Strange Birds by Celia Perez, who may sound familiar. She is also the award-winning author of the book The First Rule of Punk. If you look through our playlist for Chapter 1 Read Aloud, you will find the Chapter 1 of that book as well. But this particular book, when three very different girls find a mysterious invitation to a lavish mansion, the promise of adventure and mischief is too intriguing to pass up. Ophelia Castillo, a budding journalist, Astor Douglas, a bookish foodie, and Kat Garcia, a rule-abiding birdwatcher, meet the kid behind the invite, Lane DeSante, and it isn't love at first sight, but they soon bond over a shared mission to get the Floras, their local scouts, to ditch an outdated tradition. In their quest for justice, independence, and an unforgettable summer, the girls form their own troupe and find something they didn't know they needed: sisterhood. So here you go. Here is Chapter 1 of the book Strange Birds. The pencil Ophelia tapped against her reporter's notebook was part of a set, a last day of school gift from her favorite teacher, Miss Nigel. She didn't give them to all the newspaper staffers who were moving on to middle school. Ophelia knew they were nice pencils, not generic 12 for $2 pencils. Each one was topped with a black eraser, and on its natural wood color was a quote by a man named Woody Guthrie: "All you can write is what you see." She had asked Miss Nigel what the quote meant, and Miss Nigel had answered in the way teachers do: "What do you think it means?" Ophelia hoped that it meant that all you could write was literally what you saw. Woody Guthrie had obviously never lived in Sable Palms, Florida. What she saw outside the window of her mother's car on that first Monday morning of summer break was the same thing she saw every Monday morning. There was Donna Amalia from next door, wheeling her overflowing blue recycling bin across their driveway. The wheels crunched over gravel as she struggled to drag it. Once at the curb, she opened the lid and pulled out the topmost object. Then she aimed it at Chucho. Chucho was a rooster that had shown up one day after a tropical storm battered their town. He moved into the tree in front of Donna Amelia's house and never left. Someone on the street, no one remembers who, named him Chucho, and it stuck. Chucho had the prettiest burnt orange feathers, but his handsomeness didn't outweigh his bad habits. The rooster pooped on cars when Donna Amelia had company parked out front, and if that wasn't bad enough, he crowed all day, like his internal alarm clock was out of whack, drawing the wrath not just of Ophelia's neighbor, but of the entire street. As a rinsed-out can of Goya black beans flew through the air, it occurred to Ophelia that the only thing that really changed from week to week was the item Donna Amelia threw at the bird with all the strength her 70-something-year-old arm could muster. The can missed its mark, but startled the rooster, who flew from its perch, squawking angrily as he strutted down the street. Ophelia watched her mom make her way toward the car, purse hanging on her right shoulder, keys in hand. "Del Doña Amelia," Mrs. Castillo called out, "if you hit that bird, I'll make arroz con gallo for us." "Ha ha," Ophelia thought. She pulled off her glasses and wiped them on her t-shirt. She didn't need them to see that the two women were now laughing like it was the first time her mom had made that joke. She held up the pencil to her nose and inhaled the cedar scent. It smelled like an amazing story. It smelled like the truth. That, she realized, was all she could write, and that was what could win the QWERTY Shoals journalism contest. 5 lucky 7th graders from around the country were picked each year to attend a summer journalism camp in New York City. Winning the contest not only meant being recognized for her writing, it meant going away without her parents and proving that to them once and for all that she could be responsible and independent. But as she watched Doña Amelia push down the contents of her recycling bin, close the lid, and head back up her driveway, she saw QWERTY Shoals' dreams circling the drain. Ophelia sighed and looked up at the blank page. "Let me remind you that you are not to write anything in your little notebook," Mrs. Castillo said, settling into the driver's seat and glancing in Ophelia's direction. "Nothing you see, nothing you hear." "What kinds of things might I see or hear that I shouldn't write about?" She wiggled her eyebrows at her mom. "Ni una palabra, Ophelia," Mrs. Castillo warned again. "None of your Nancy Drew business." "Nancy Drew is a sleuth," Ophelia said. "She looks for clues to solve mysteries. I'm a journalist. I look for stories to write." Mrs. Castillo said. "Both sound nosy to me." Ophelia thought about what her mother said. She knew that she wanted to be a journalist when she learned about the muckrakers in social studies class. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, journalists like Ida B. Wells, Nellie Bly, and Ida Tarbell exposed corruption. They noticed injustices, and then, through their stories, forced the world to notice them too. Miss Nigel said no one really used the term muckraker anymore, and that today they call them investigative journalists. Still, Ophelia relished the idea of raking the muck off and exposing things, like raking the tomato sauce off the meatballs in the school cafeteria and exposing them for the textured vegetable protein balls that they were. Or, like the topic of her very first story in the second grade, an expose of the three wise men after she caught her parents, not Los Reyes Magos, leaving gifts for her on January 6th. It made her wonder what else the adults in her life were hiding. Maybe she could be Nancy Drew and Ida B. Wells, all in one. She certainly didn't want to be Lois Lane type of journalist who didn't even realize that Clark Kent was Superman wearing glasses. But what am I supposed to do there all summer, Ma? Ophelia asked, struggling to keep them whining. In books and movies, summer breaks meant spending your days outside looking for adventures. Her friend Andrea was flying alone to visit her cousins in California, and then she was going to sleepaway camp. Ophelia, on the other hand, got to work with her mom. She squirmed with embarrassment and wondered how many 12-year-olds have parents as overprotective as hers. She knew kids were unsupervised after school and during the summer and went to the movies with friends, not with her parents. When I was a little girl in Cuba, she would make a whole game out of an empty box. Mrs. Castillo said proudly, "You can help me if you need something to do. I'm going to be very busy with the preparations for the Flora Centennial." "Just point me to the nearest box, please," Ophelia said with fake enthusiasm. "Bueno, read, be bored," Mrs. Castillo said. "It's not the worst thing in the world." Ophelia stuck the pencil in her mouth and bit down so hard the thin, glossy coat over the word can cracked between her teeth. It was as if the pencil had known she was doomed. Being bored, being stuck in an old dusty house all summer, those were the absolute worst things in the world. Ophelia pressed the steely gray lead of her pencil against the page and wrote, "Dead body found at DeSanti Mansion. Boredom sought for questioning," by Ophelia Castillo. And that, my friends, is chapter 1 of the book Strange Birds. Feel free to read the whole book and listen up this month for more Hispanic authors as part of National Hispanic Heritage Month. And see you next time on Chapter 1 Read Aloud.